All right, everybody, welcome to tonight's call. If you do not know who I am Senior Director Andy Brock. We have a great guest on tonight. I just want to kind of go over why I started these Zoom calls. I wanted to create a library, so to speak, for associates that are having trouble in their business or new associates that are just getting started, of interviews with some of the top leaders in this business that have been doing everything it takes and having great success in doing that. And in doing so, maybe they can pull away a couple tips from each individual leader and how to build their business and have great success. Now, our guest tonight, it's actually kind of funny because I've only known him for the last year. We met at Ignition last year. On an elevator, actually. And, this is why it's so important that you actually attend events and network not only, with your friends and family, but also within your business stream, because then you're able to build friendships and relationships and have the ability to conduct calls like this for your teams and for other teams within the business. In the last year, Jeff has become a very close and dear friend of mine. And even though he's younger than me, I look up to him as a mentor because he's actually helped my business tremendously, along with other leaders that I've created relationships with. Just to give you a little background on Jeff, I don't think there's actually an award that this guy hasn't won yet. He is an Inspiration Award winner. He is a Power of Leadership Award winner this year. He's a two-time 300 Club qualifier, on top of being recognized as the 2016 Top Rising Star in all of Stream. So at this time, I want to welcome Senior Director Jeff Stier of New Jersey to the call. And Jeff, thank you for taking the time to spend with us here tonight.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for the great intro. Every time anybody intros me like that, I always feel like I have too much to live up to after all that. But I appreciate the kind words, man. I really do.
Well, it's actually an honor to have you on, and I know you have a very large organization, so I know your time is limited. So it is a privilege and an honor to have you on. If you just kind of want to go over your story and why you got started for those people that don't know you and know your story.
So October 2013, I bought a ring. I was looking to propose to my then girlfriend. I had a full-time job as a music teacher, working, full-time plus. Most people on here probably know what that is. 50, 60 hours, whatever I really needed to do. But I was only getting paid for 40. And I had two other jobs. I was working at a pharmacy as a pharmacy technician and supervisor, and I was dating my boss. The pharmacist, Christina, was basically the one standing right next to me telling me what to do. And not much has changed in all that time, but I had that job, and I was also playing 3 days a week in church as a pianist and organist, and altogether still not making enough money to afford the wedding that I was assuming we were going to be planning, because I was hoping that following week when I gave her the ring and asked her to marry me, she would say yes. So the day I'm going to propose, my wife's cousin Manny calls me and asks me to take a look at Stream. So they say timing is everything. Well, timing was really bad that particular day because I had really one thing on my mind, and that was the proposal. So she says yes, thank God. And a week later, he calls me back. And I would just say one quick thing is, fortune is in the follow-up. If Manny didn't call me back, I probably would not have asked him about the business again. I just wasn't really in the frame of mind. I was kind of overwhelmed with a lot of things. And he called me and he said, listen, I just want you to take a look. And now I'm looking at this thing, well, I've got 3 jobs, not really cutting it. Manny, who I trust and respect and who has some credibility already with me, is telling me to take a look at something. I'm going to look. I didn't get started the day I looked at it. It was a Sunday night. I'm a Vikings fan. My wife's a Giants fan, and we went to a Giants-Vikings game. I'll never forget. I came home with my horns on and my face half purple and yellow with my horns between my legs because we got killed that day. And Manny calls me at 10 p.m. to look at stream. And the last thing in the world I wanted to do was look at this business. But thank God I did. I didn't join that night. I joined 4 days later on a Thursday morning. I'm sitting at my desk waiting for my jazz band kids to come in the door at 7 in the morning. And I said, you know what? For things to change, I've got to change. I got to do something different. And so I signed up, and sort of the rest is kind of history. But I guess my thing was I didn't have a lot of time, but I didn't want to be in that position for another 37 years, which was what was on the plate for me. So this just seemed like a great option at the time, and certainly has been a great option.
I would say so. It's crazy when you tell me the story that, you had no upline to rely on when you first started. You tell the story of how you went through your power center and you're looking at your upline and you're calling them all up, but all of them had quit. So why don't you tell us why you didn't use that as an excuse to quit? And maybe, what leaders really did you attach yourself to and really help you along the way when you first started?
So, it's funny you bring that up. So just so everybody on the call knows, what Andy means is I go into the power center, I look at the few names of my managing director, my senior director, my executive director. My managing director didn't answer. And my senior director and executive director were the same person. And when I called him up, he said, I'm no longer involved, best of luck, and then he hung up on me. So my option at that point was, like Andy said, I could either quit or keep going. And I think the reason I didn't quit, and this may be stupid, is I didn't feel like wasting $329. I know that sounds silly, but at the time, that was kind of all that was on my mind. It cost me $329 to start this business. If you're newer, it may have cost you $199 or $299 or $99 or whatever. So you got a better deal. But I didn't want to waste $329, and I thought, well, that's kind of stupid. That guy was rude. And I would tell you, in the beginning, I didn't really have any leaders to look to because all of New Jersey kind of crumbled around me pretty much a week after I joined, because the guy who hung up on me had the biggest team in that area. And so when he left, so did everybody else. And I always like to picture my start in New Jersey as in those old Western movies where the little tumbleweed just kind of blows along the road. That's kind of what it looked like. All the meetings in our local area shut down. There was one 10 minutes away. The week after I joined, it shut down. There was one in Parsippany that I went to for 2 weeks, and then by the last meeting, the person would leave the projector at home and just point to slides on an iPad and then just stop showing up. And then that meeting canceled. And so for a while there, I didn't really have anybody until I found a Phillipsburg meeting with Executive Director Brett Morrow and Senior Director John Corrado, Barry Shire. All those Phillipsburg guys, really took me in. And then I went to South Jersey down to Mount Laurel and connected with Greg and Noreen Savage. They were kind of also the other ones that sort of gave me a little bit of direction and offered me a phone number if I needed any advice or any help, which I thought was super cool because I was pretty much clueless. So, I'm glad I didn't quit, I guess, is the moral of that story.
So, that's amazing. And it just goes to show that, leaders in this business, whether they have any financial gain or not to somebody that's interested and willing to run with this, it really is a business of servant leadership, and that they are willing to go above and beyond to help a 25-year-old kid get started. Wouldn't you say, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, what I heard at the time, because I was big into personal development right away, because I figured if I don't have anybody to help me, I'll just find online mentors. So early on, I heard if you don't have an upline, just become the upline, meaning just go do the work and become successful enough that you can be the upline for somebody else. Just go figure it out. You don't necessarily need an upline to be successful. And when I kind of just decided to take responsibility for it myself, is when I found success, because I was failing so badly, but I kept seeing other people around me succeeding. And I'm thinking, I got the same compensation plan, the same services, the same rates, the same company, the same everything. They're making money and I'm not. I can't blame the company. I can't blame network marketing. I can't blame anything other than myself. And I knew that there had to be a way to figure it out. And so I just improved my skills. And I would really attribute that to the success that I had early on, with just learning what the hell I was doing.
So, that kind of segues me into my next question. So here you are, 25-year-old kid, music teacher, working 2 jobs, no experience, no network to speak of. What actions did you do early in your career that resulted in the organization that you see today of over 1,000 associates and, 5,000 plus customers?
It's funny in the beginning. So my strategy when I first started was, we used to get this power plan workbook. It was pretty much the only thing that came in our little box when we got started. And in the workbook, it said, show the plan. So my first strategy was I would just put a bunch of people in a room that I went to school with, and anybody that I could find, play the video, talk over the video, because apparently I knew better than Steve Fisher in the video at the time. And then when anyone had any questions or objections, I would just argue with them. And I realized that was a pretty bad approach. I pretty much burned through about 75 people in my first 30 days, give or take. And so my first 6 months were pretty brutal. I think I sponsored 2 people, 3 people. It was bad. It was just not good. I mean, some people have this quick claim to fame story, or they got in and they skyrocketed to the top. I mean, my first 18 months in this business were pretty brutal. It took me 18 months to get to senior director, and I'm getting to your answer because the funny part about your answer is to get to senior director, I just got people wherever I could get them from. I didn't really have a plan. It was kind of just like, as I got better, I would go and apologize to the old people that I talked to for screwing it up and ask them for a second chance. Maybe they would look at it again. And believe it or not, I got a few associates that way. I went back as far as I could find, people from high school, really digging deep into my Facebook friends list, anybody that, I could possibly send a message to. And I will say it was enough to move me pretty close to senior director. I found a guy on Facebook. His name was Mike Alfaro. Super muscular guy. We weren't friends. I sent him a friend request and asked him if he kept his options open. He said yes, and he became my first managing director. And then I was clueless as to where I was going to find the next one, and my ex-girlfriend of 7 years contacted me and said, you look like you're doing really well with this business. I need some extra money for a traveling missionary project I'm doing. I'd like to work with you. Interesting conversation to have then with my wife about whether it would be okay for my ex to join my team. Needless to say, though, my ex became my second managing director to promote me to senior director. That leads me then to your question. 18 months into the business, I'm totally out of people. All the, things that the people normally do, that warm market, was kind of out. Now, over time, I was able to find that there was more warm market available, but at that time, as far as I knew, I had nobody left to talk to. Some of you may feel like that on this call where, you're looking at your list and you're going, the list is dead. I got nobody left. And so I started to go to 2 directions. One was social media, and I'm not talking, maybe we'll talk about that in a few minutes, but I wasn't blasting all over social media looking for people. I was creating a brand. And Jim Rohn always says, success is not something you pursue. It's something you attract by the person you become. And that stuck with me. I decided I wasn't going to pursue associates on Facebook. I was just going to put myself out there, create a brand, and then attract people to my Facebook, attract people to me that would want to work with me. And I would say probably 75% of my business personally in terms of recruiting has come from Facebook. The other part of it is the networking, belly-to-belly networking groups. Many of you know Executive Director Michael J. Lerman. I sponsored that guy, thank God. Michael J., I met him at a networking event. Again, looking for somebody new to talk to. And I don't want to go on too long, but it is an important story. I walk into this networking event that's supposed to have about 18 to 20 people, and there's no one. So I walk into the event. I figured I drove all the way out here. Let me at least grab lunch so it's not a total waste of my time. So I sit down for lunch, and in walks this guy. looking for the same networking meeting that I was looking for. I sat down with Michael J., and it looks like somebody's sharing their screen at the moment.
Rob.
Looks like Rob's sharing his screen.
Anyway, keep going.
All right. So anyway, I sat down with Michael J. And he asked me what I do for a living. So rather than vomiting stream all over him, which I was tempted to do, I said, you know what? I'm just going to play the video. Now, that was when our video was 17 minutes long. So about 7 minutes into the video, Michael J. closed the laptop and said, you know, I get it. I'm not interested. I was like, okay. But I got his business card, and this is really part of the training. So this is kind of why I'm going with this. I got his business card, and about 2 months later, I reached out to Michael J., not for stream. He said he was he had an advertising company. He helped restaurants and different businesses advertise. So 2 months after we met, I called him and offered him or referred him to a restaurant that I thought could use some of his advertising. That, I think, impressed him because I didn't end the call with, let's talk about stream again. I just ended it with, here's some business for you. If I get anything else, I'll give you a call. So a few months later, now I've already connected with Michael J. on Facebook. So again, I was attracting Michael J. already with what I was doing and what I was about. You know, if anybody knows Michael J., they'll know he's pretty nuts in this business. And he'll tell you, if you ask him, the reason he joined was because he thought I was as nuts as him. And that came from what he saw and the brand that I built. But when I called him maybe 3-4 months after that referral, and I asked him if he would sit with me again, take a serious look in the business, and possibly refer me to some other people that might be interested, he said he would meet me. I drove down to Jackson, New Jersey, and showed Michael J. the business and a McDonald's. And a week later, he joined my team, and 4 months later was my first senior director. And a year and a half later is an executive director in my organization and has brought us 550 associates and 2,500 plus customers in 18 months. So networking events and social media are the answers really for my business and growing that network.
And following up, I would say. It's kind of a lost art, but something that you have specifically honed to success in your business.
My second senior director, Beverly Perone, was 2.5 to 3 years of follow-up to even get her to look at the business. And 3 years into my business, she joined, and 1 year later became my second senior director. So fortune is most certainly in the follow-up.
So, you're big on culture, within your team and creating a culture. It's actually one of the most important lessons that I've personally learned from you and something that I've started to build with my team. So if you could just talk a little bit about how important culture is in this business and kind of what the culture is like with your team. I know you guys do a lot of leadership dinners. I actually had the opportunity to participate in one. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to make the last two. I apologize. But if you can just kind of talk
too big for me, Andy. You're getting too big for me.
That is certainly not the case, brother. Trust me.
I would say most people already have a job and don't want another one. Or they already have 2 jobs and they don't want a third. If you make stream feel like another job, it's just one other thing that they don't want to do. And so for me, culture is about creating something that feels more like a place where you can go that's kind of a relief from work. Even though it's work, it's all perception. If I can create a feeling of connectedness, I can create a culture of almost like a family. People want to work this business more because it becomes more enjoyable for them as opposed to just another chore. And so I would tell you that in life, most people will work harder for praises than they will for raises. You may have heard that saying before, and I find that to be very true. Everything that my team does, I acknowledge, I make a big deal out of, because if you acknowledge somebody for what they do, even if it's small, it's much different than the job that they typically go to, which never acknowledges what they do and only talks about what they didn't do well enough. right? And so having the correct culture or having a positive culture keeps people together. Think about if I were to draw a line directly down the middle of your screen, and on one side it was easier to quit, and the other side it was easier to stay. When a brand new person starts and joins your team, they are most certainly on the easier to quit side. It's your job as a leader to create a culture and to build a team that gets the person across the line. So that could be getting them to a meeting and having them meet your team. It could be plugging them into your team's page. It could be having them come to a training. It could be having them come to, I used to do occasionally something like a bowling night, having them come where all of a sudden now if they quit, they don't just quit on themselves, they quit on the team. And that has been a big reason that I've not only had my team grow like it has, but they've stuck around because we're all part of one big unit that moves together. And I've seen that, Andy, with you and your team, certainly over the last, 6 months to a year, that culture is so important.
So you talked earlier about personal development and how important that is, and how much you personally have developed, not only as a business owner but as a man and now as a father. You're really gonna grow, developing as a father. But you are a regular attendee, along with Michael J, to GoPro in Las Vegas with Eric Worre. How important would you say that making an investment such as that, or just an investment in general towards self-development, and how critical it is to constantly grow and develop in this business?
It's probably the only reason I have the business that I have. There are a couple of schools of thought, but my school of thought is along the lines of what John Maxwell always says and Jim Rohn always says: your business or your whatever, your organization will only ever grow to whatever level of leader you are. I think John Maxwell calls it the law of lid. And the lid is wherever you are as a person, your people generally stay below that threshold. And so if you want to increase the productivity of your team and the quality of the people you're bringing into the business, you have to increase your own qualities and your own level of leadership. And so by investing in things like GoPro, or you probably heard me mention Jim Rohn 3 or 4 times already. My first purchase, in fact, I have it sitting right in front of me because it's that important, is a binder full of notes from Jim Rohn's. There's like a book of notes here. Jim Rohn's Foundations for Success. It cost me $497, and I didn't have the $497 to spend because at that point I think I had 4 associates and like 7 customers, but I didn't really think I had any other options. So I bought the program. I watched the program, I think 3 times, took crazy notes. And by the time I was done with that program, I was sponsoring better people. And then I went and saw Darren Hardy and Brian Tracy at an event called the Success Mastery Academy. That cost me $1,300. Didn't have the money for that either. Flew out to Dallas, was lucky enough because I couldn't even afford the hotel, lucky enough that Steve Fisher let me stay in his house for that weekend. And when I came home from that Success Mastery Academy is the week, or the month rather, that I sponsored both Michael J. and Beverly.
Wow.
So I attribute my success incrementally to either attending streams events or to plugging into something of personal and professional development. After that event, I spent $1,000 on Darren Hardy's insane productivity program. After the completion of that program, my business took another jump. And then I started to attend Eric Worre's GoPro. And I've been, 2 or 3 years now, and I'm already registered for next year. So 100% you want, and now listen, you might not be able to afford $1,300 today, but find something that you can do to invest in yourself at whatever level that is. And Eric Worre, who I'm a big fan of, that runs that event, always says, make it a goal to create every year a personal development budget. Just like you have a budget for everything else, say, this year I'm going to spend no more or maybe at least no less than $500 on personal development. Now that might include a trip to Dallas or something, but maybe in there you can buy a book. I don't know if you can see back here is some of my bookshelf, and on there each book represents another jump in my business. So when I say invest in personal development, it doesn't have to be a $500 program. It could be a $12 book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. That changed my business. I'll never forget, I read that book on the beach in St. Lucia and came home and sponsored 3 or 4 people that month and had another burst in my business. So personal development, all about it.
Wow. So, in January, you posted a very emotional video when the Customer Plus plan was announced. And for a multitude of reasons, you'd been building this business and plugging away for years. You're only a few weeks out from becoming a father for the first time. So can you just tell us what you were feeling when you heard about the Customer Plus and the impact that you knew that was going to have for the future of your family?
Yeah, that's a good question. I will preface this whole thing by saying I'm kind of the crybaby of stream. I tend to get emotional about things just the way I am. But when I heard about Customer Plus, listen, I've been a great customer gatherer since day one, and everyone used to not make fun, but, overachiever. How many customers do you have? Well, I only have 18 and I'm a top money earner. I'm sitting there with 90 or whatever the number was at the time, and I'm thinking, maybe I'm doing something wrong because my 90 customers are netting me a whole big $45 a month. Maybe I'm doing something wrong. And so when Customer Plus was announced, and I realized that all the customer gathering efforts, now I wish it went back to 2013, but that's another story. But all the customer gathering efforts I put in was going to net me between, let's say, 600 and 1,000, depending on, whatever month we're in or time of the year, between $600 and $1,000 extra a month to my income for work that I'd already done. And I'm thinking, man, with a new baby that was literally, I don't even know when I did that video if she was born yet. I don't think so. And I'm thinking, wow, my life is about to change, and this money could not have come at a better time. This announcement could not have come at a better time. And I remember I just kind of broke down on video that, Stream would create such a change in the compensation plan for the better. You'll notice a lot of companies will cut things or restructure compensation plans so they help the company more than the associate. These compensation plan changes over the last few months have totally changed my business and transformed my income potential. And it's an emotional thing. This business in general is emotional, but it's just incredible, the opportunity that we have.
So how do you feel about the future of the company moving forward? In January 13th, I believe it is, we finally instituted the change in the comp plan. A week later, they announced Customer Plus. We have the best ignition to date with just the speaker lineup, how smooth everything was with ignition and everything that came out of that. How comfortable and how do you feel about the future of this company moving forward with the potential states that we've already added, the new states that we could potentially add, the possibly new services, and especially with Ryan and Steve at the helm?
Well, the last thing you said is probably the biggest reason I'm so positive and so confident in the future of Stream. I will tell you, I worked this business for 2.5 years and left my teaching job because I believed then in Stream. To walk away from, $50,000 a year salary with great benefits and pursue something like this, you've got to have a serious set of first of all, and second of all, you have to have huge belief in what you're doing. And I believed 3 years ago that this was going to be the best thing for me in my future. And today, I feel like that times 10. The company has put us in a better place financially. The company has better leadership than it's ever had before. It has better rates in many areas than it had in the past. It has better customer service than it had in the past. It has better associate support. It has better communication. Better. A new power center that continues to get better. Everything's getting better. And I'm just excited. I mean, listen, 5 years ago, almost 4 years ago. No, crap. Wait a minute. I started in 2013. It's 2018. So this will be 5 years?
I guess. God. Yeah.
5 years ago, I was told, just keep doing the work, and it'll work eventually. And that feels okay in the beginning, except when it doesn't work. You keep looking at your business, you're like, well, where is that? They told me it was going to work if I just kept working. And I overheard somewhere Les Brown say, in network marketing, in the beginning, it feels like you do a lot that you don't get paid for. So then in the end, you can get paid for a lot that it feels like you don't do. And I could not stress enough how true that statement is. You put in all the legwork and building and sponsoring. I mean, I'm sure there are people on this call that have sponsored people that have done nothing. If everybody you sponsored did a lot, then you are a unique individual, because there are most people in this business you will bring into the business that are, especially the ones that tell you up front that they're going to kill it. Generally, those are the ones that do the least. But I've had, just like all of you, people join and do nothing, join and do nothing. But if you continue to look for the right people, I encourage all of you to, after you finish this Zoom with us, go to YouTube and type in Jim Rohn, The Sower and the Seed. Jim Rohn, The Sower and the Seed is about an 8-minute story, changed my whole business. I listen to it regularly because I'm a different person every time I listen to it. But in that story, he talks about when you are sowing seeds, they fall on bad ground. They get eaten by the birds. The sun dries them up. And then eventually it falls on good ground. They don't tell you in that story that it could take you 2.5 years for your seeds to fall on good ground. But they do. And when you find good ground, you run with it. You water the heck out of those seeds. Too many times in this business, and I'll just take this analogy and draw it out even longer, but too many times in this business, people plant seeds and then they stare at them. But they'll plant 2 seeds and they'll look at the ground and they'll say, damn it, seeds, you told me you were going to grow. Scam, this thing doesn't work. No, a farmer that's sowing seeds will sow a whole bunch of seeds and then look for the ones that sprout and then water the ones and work with the ones that are sprouting. I would encourage anybody on this call, if you have seeds that have not sprouted for the last 6 months, don't spend time staring at them. Just go plant another seed, because eventually you find a Michael J, and that sucker is like a beanstalk. It just keeps growing and growing and growing. And, I'm going to kind of take this one step further because I think it's valuable information. So I hope you don't mind me derailing your question. But I think it's important for your team. And it's what I talked about at my leadership dinner, which is you may plant a seed, you may get a new associate, right, that is not going to do anything. That is one of those people that maybe they just qualify and they disappear. But before they disappear, ask that person who they know. This one thing, everybody on this call, could make you $100,000, $1 million, so just pay attention. If you put somebody in the business and they get qualified and they start to disappear, before they disappear, simply say, John, who do you know that you could introduce me to that might be interested in working this business? If you meet with the people that John knows before you lose John, and you just get one person, and then you work with that person, and maybe they're another John, they get qualified before that person disappears, you say, is there anybody you know that you could introduce me to that we can share stream with that might be a good fit for our opportunity? And you dig and you dig and you dig until you find the one person like an Andy Brock or a Leanne Sullivan or a Steve Guzman or whoever that runs with it. I sponsored a girl that I went to college with that was in my piano studio, and she got qualified because I was dragging her through those 3 points. But she got them, and then she was about to disappear, and I said, is there anyone you can introduce me to that might be interested in making a little extra money with Stream? And she introduced me to Christian Varela, who is a senior director in my senior director team that's led to 150, 200 associates and hundreds of customers. What if I had let that associate disappear just because, oh, well, at least they qualified? You know, there's so much more than at least they qualified. Make sure when you sponsor a new person, you don't sponsor just them. You sponsor their network. Remember that. I hope that didn't totally derail, but I think it's important and valuable for your people.
No, that's great information. That's really great information. That's probably, not probably, but is, the reason that in short order here, you should be an executive director. So, that being said, and it's something that we expect all very soon, what other goals do you have set for yourself here in the business aside from executive director? Obviously you got the customers to make a run at national director,
right?
but and I know that is one of your goals. But what other goals do you have set for this business?
So one of them is I have a few people on my team that are very close to the 300 club. Michael J, I don't really have to worry about. He's about 30 customers away. That one's a done deal. Beverly Perrone is 38 or 39 customers away from the 300 club. So one of my goals right now is to help those two for sure get on that 300 club. I've got 2 or 3 other people that are at least a third of the way or better. So I'm working also with them. So that's kind of my goal. I hit the 300 club already this year, and that's great. But as you said, Andy, when we were talking, it's even better when somebody on your team does it. So, that is a big goal of mine. Executive director, I have to tell you, though, is my almost my singular focus right now. In fact, I just recently redid a whiteboard. It's right behind the computer that kind of outlines what I need. I'm 10 associates away in a perfect world and a handful of customers. So it'll definitely happen soon. But for me right now, I'm at income goals as well. I have one goal is to replace my old teaching income, which in my residual. I've already replaced it in total, but with my residual income, my goal is to replace my teaching income, which I did just this month. My second goal, or I should say I will do this month, and my second goal, which might take me another month or two, is to cover my mortgage, my insurance, and my taxes on my home. That should maybe be another 2 months, and then that'll be covered. And those to me are milestones, because when I started, I thought, man, if I can make enough money to just do what I'm doing in teaching, in my teaching job, that'll be okay. But think about this. I used to work 50 or 60 hours a week as a teacher, and I make as much now residually as I used to make working 50 to 60 hours a week, driving back and forth to Westfield. It's amazing. So right now I've got some income goals and then my executive director goal. It should just, it's amazing. I just talked to Jason Bias the other day. He says, you've got whatever I have, 15 or 16 senior directors in my organization. I have an executive director in my organization. I've got over 1,000 associates, and I'm still not an ED. But again, if you grow it the right way, you build it the right way, let it grow organically, you get all this growth. And I always said I'd rather be a rich SD than a broke ED any day. So if anybody's on this call, if you're chasing a title, don't chase the title, chase an income. Because if you get the title and you're broke, the title doesn't mean much. And I would really encourage everyone on here to just worry about building the best business you possibly can.
Well, that was an amazing call, Jeff. So thank you very much. I want to thank you for that. And, we're going to open it up to some quick Q&A if anybody has any questions for you. But I just want to ask you to kind of share some final thoughts. I already kind of know what you're going to touch on here since we already talked about it earlier today. But if you could just share some final thoughts for the people that are going to be they're watching now and that are going to be watching a replay later.
just keep working your business. I would tell you, there's an equation that I like to talk about with my team. It's action times skills equals results. And I'm not the greatest at math, but anything times 0 is 0. So if you're not getting results in your business, look at the action you're taking, look at the skills you have in the business. And if you're not taking any action, I don't care how good you are. And there are some of you on this call, or some of you that will watch this replay, that are as good in this business as I am. The only difference is I take the action and you don't. Or you may talk to 1 million people and you're just a total hot mess. And there's this expression, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. You absolutely can say the wrong thing to the right person. Don't believe that. You go up to somebody and you say, I just joined this opportunity. It's called Stream and it's great because it's $199 and you can join customers and you and two and blah, 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 whatever. You will lose that person. I would not have sponsored Michael J. if I didn't have the skills that I have. So if your results are not where you want them to be, action times skills equals results. If you improve either one by even just a little bit, you will drastically change the results that you're getting in your business.
Oh, fantastic stuff. I'm actually kind of getting bugged out because I can actually see my bald head in the reflection of your window behind you.
I think they can see your bald head from the lunar module.
Thanks, buddy. So at this time, we're going to open it up to questions. If anybody has any questions at all for Jeff, if you want to learn how to build your business, he is the one that you want to talk to. He's the leader's leader, trainer's trainer. So just unmute yourself at this time and ask a question, and he will be happy to answer it.
And the questions are rolling in.
Yeah.
I guess that means I did okay if they don't have any questions. Or I did terrible and they just want me to get off the call.
All right. Well, I guess that's it. There's Leanne. I knew she had one.
No, I just wanted to say I got so much value out of this. And I just wanted to say thank you so much for everything.
Thanks, Leanne. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it, Jeff. Thanks very much.
You bet.
Cheryl, glad to see you made it too, Miranda.
All right, guys, at this time, I'm going to stop recording. I just want to, guys, if you're sitting here watching the replay, I just want to thank Jeff Stier, highly decorated Stream Senior Director, for hopping on with us and sharing some valuable tips on how to build a massive organization. I really appreciate it, brother. Thanks a lot.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. And anybody that's on this call, if we're not friends on Facebook and you want to add me on Facebook, you have any questions, you can private message me or whatever, and I'll help any of you as best I can.
Awesome. All right, guys. Thanks, and have a good night.